So let's talk today about the Super Adventure Box 2020 update. It's the most recent patch for the game, and well, it's not the most expansive of patches for the regular game, but it does have a few tweaks for the box itself. Compared to last year, SAB 2019, I wouldn't say it's quite as substantive as what we got there either. If you remember last year, the devs really pushed the limits. They gave us a few new upgrades, and all kinds of crazy stuff happened. This year, not so much, but there's a new weapon set to go for, and particularly some interesting things we can talk about with what they did with the Black Lion, I guess, including the introduction of the first super mount. The idea of having super mounts, I remember from right when Path of Fire came out, some of the earliest concepts for mounts they could put in the game, and this year added this guy. This is the Super Raptor. I think he's called the Outlaw Raptor, and he actually has a really ludicrously flashy engage and disengage animation, as you can see here. But that's pretty much par for the course for a lot of Guild Wars stuff around about now. So one of the main things that has changed is if you have a look over at the vendors, last year's item, I'll go over the patch notes themselves in a second, not this this vendor, this guy here. Last year's item, the Gordon, who I already got from actually playing the content last year, you can pick up for Bubble Bubbles. There's a new Choya Miner that you can find this year. Looks like we'll get varieties of Choya around. Having a miner is quite interesting because, as you guys probably know, if you watch a lot of my channel, the unreleased future levels and worlds for SAB feature a lot of underground scenarios. In fact, the very next level is called the Sparkling Pools, and right before it, you find a bunch of bandit miners. So I like the fact that he's a miner. It feels like they're nodding ahead, at least just a little bit. And he's who we can go ahead and earn if we complete the unintended coursework achievement for this year. Then there's also glitches going on in the box and a few other things. So let's go have a look inside and hit up the patch notes themselves. Now, the first thing you might want to notice is that the weekly trader, who you can buy really good loot from, but a limited number every week, now also has the Amalgamated Gemstone added. If you were watching my channel mid last month, you'll remember the devs put up a post I talked about where they were actually asking for feedback on this, and they said, well, look, we could update the vendor, what do you guys want to see? I sort of waffled out a response that was non-meaningful, but Amalgamated Gemstones are a really good idea. They've been fit in here. You could obviously TP them, just as you would say a Mystic Coin, but realistically, what this means is by playing the box, you can get legendary shards, Mystic Coins, and Amalgamateds, all of which are building towards legendary weapons, which is fantastic, really. So I'm very excited about that. Then many of the other changes are inside the worlds themselves with a new system of glitches that you can find. I'll deal with those on the patch notes in a second. But also the Hub 2, and I must be honest, I haven't played it yet. The Hub 2 has an adventure, a new adventure that they've added. Obviously, there was a race. You're actually seeing the race is about to end in 1 second here. And that was added the first time the box reappeared with Path of Fire. Well, now there is also an adventure. Adventures were added in general last year, 2019, but not in the Hub. And now there's one here, supposedly, which is pretty nice. I enjoyed those adventures last year as well. So we'll see what they do. That will be collecting the coins, if I remember rightly, kind of a reference to the 8 coins from Super Mario. So that's the box itself. Let's have a look at the patch notes and whisk through what the devs are showing us here. The Super Adventure Festival, and they got a paragraph that they copy-paste every year, realistically. You can now go into the Super Adventure box, and it ends on May 12th, so you get a long time to actually be able to play this. They say that the meta achievement for this year will give you a new item, the Virtual Box Helmet, and last year's one, Gordon, you can now buy from the trader, as I already showed you guys. So if you don't get this helmet, you don't think it looks that good or whatever, you miss out on SAB this year, it too will probably be on the vendor next year and you'll be okay. And then here's the new feature, the main one that they explain. A new set of glitched adventure weapons has been added. Seek out strange glitches off the beaten path of each level to add a bonus chest to the level's rewards for a chance to claim these unusual weapons, or buy them at a high price in Bauble Bubbles from the Super Adventure Box Weaponsmith. Tidy up the glitches in each level to earn new achievements and unlock the Super Mini Choya at the trader. So you get the collection, the miner comes out of that. So let's talk a bit about these glitched weapons. The process for acquiring them basically just means, and I think you can actually get them on the TP as well. Let's see, if I type the word glitched, will they appear? I'm pretty sure they're on the TP. They are. So they're around 20 gold, so what you really should do is just earn them yourself. If you're working on the other stuff in the box and you're playing the levels, doing your dailies, you just go off the beaten path a little bit. I don't believe they've added new areas to levels entirely. Grab the glitch wherever you find it, and then when you beat the level, you get an extra roll for them. They are kind of interesting, and I actually went to the effort here in my chat box to copy all the preview codes so that we can see them as they go through. So what's quite curious is they got this strange effect where they look like a regular SAB weapon, but every now and then they like freak out. I think probably one of the best ones for us to look at here are the big ones. So the greatsword here, and you can see that it's kind of aberrating every now and then we get this here as well. And I really like this one because you can actually see the sword on the shield comes off, and the box on the shield comes off. I don't know how the devs have set this up, but it's like the texture itself they've learned to like peel pieces off of, and maybe they could do cool stuff with that elsewhere in the game in the future. And it's even, you know, kind of three-dimensional. Really, really, really interesting. So that's the new weapon set, and it's from this new, like, glitched system. Is there any lore behind the glitches and why that might be happening now? I don't think so. And even if there was, I'm pretty sure the devs would not go very deep into it. They could, if you remember the original big update for Super Adventure Box, the Back to School update, they did a huge amount of exposition on the backstory of where the box came from, and the idea that there were glitches in the box and weirdness in the box was a big part of the story back then. But I don't think that they've tied these new weapons into that necessarily. It's just kind of a thing to look for. So that's pretty much it for the box. They also say in the patch notes, the new adventure course that I mentioned, they talk about a new festival invitation, and in fact in game I waited to collect that. Here it is. Mo says it's time for the Super Adventure Festival, and we can now collect our invitation here. If you've been super out of the loop, ever since like mid last year, all the festivals give you this invitation, and collecting them gives you progress towards Festival Frequenter. Naturally, I've got all of them as they've released. There's only 2 left now, which will be Dragon Bash, the next festival, and then Festival of the Four Winds, so sort of early summer, late summer, and then we'll have them all, and you get a unified invitation at that point. Just one of the minor things that they added back then. Interestingly as well, it's under the new Festival Collection section, which is where Festival Frequenter is, that you actually find the glitched adventure here as well to get all of these. So that's pretty nice. 50 bubbles for the victory. Didn't it say we could get the minor from this? Isn't that what it said? In any case, so there you go. That's pretty much SAB for this year. The weekly traders inventory has amalgamated. Oh, and there are new guild decorations. Yes, I will point this out. And they're all themed around the dark woods. That's World 2. You start with some bouncing mushrooms. It gets very dark and spooky at the beginning. And then in general, it's a bit brighter. It's actually a really cool, like, foresty environment with the fallen trees around and so on. You spend a lot of time climbing up. Loads of monkeys everywhere. And I'm pretty sure that they said that lily pads were actually in this as well, which I would have thought of as more of a World 3 thing. But hey, whatever. So beyond the box, there are a few more changes. First of all, a tweak to the Darkreim Delves mission. Of course, as you travel along and witness the fate of Almora, they say there's a new checkpoint that's been added near the end. I actually feel like I did quite well in that mission and I didn't fail or die, so I don't know how necessary this was. Obviously, the last boss in there is a little bit tricky, but I think that they had a checkpoint right before the last boss anyway, didn't they? Again, I don't know for sure, but this will just smooth it out for players that were struggling a bit. A couple of little changes on the tooltip for Daze and Stun to show that they do not affect stack in duration, that they overlap one another. For Engineer, I know it looks like there's a lot of changes, but there's not really. They're just text changes, really. And this one down here, a bug. Purity of Purpose, of course, being the trait that means when you cleanse a condition, you get a boon out of the condition instead. That's kind of the reverse. So, for example, if you cleanse Cripple, you give yourself Swiftness, and, you know, so on and so on and so on. Well, Taunt wasn't being affected. I don't know what Taunt actually turns into now. Let's have a quick look. Wiki says that it should turn into Stability. So there you have it, which is kind of interesting because the same is true for Fear. So Fear, you can get Stability out of 2 different sources now here. But there you go. That's what they've done with Taunt now. So over on Ranger, for Signet the Hunt, they've updated its version of Unblockable. I guess they missed this last time. So it's 10 stacks of Unblockable for 6 seconds. If you watch my video of Boots a bit back with the massive balance change, you'll remember that they enacted this and tweaked the way that a lot of Unblockable stuff works in the game now. And you might think, wow, 10 stacks is loads. Don't forget, it is Ranger, and you got loads of, like, pulse fast attacks like rapid fire and barrage, and hell, pretty much every weapon that you've got. If you're using like split blade on axe or on your short bow, there's multi-packet hits everywhere. Warhorn has multi-packet hits. You're gonna get through these 10 stacks pretty goddamn quick. Next, for Thief, fixed a bug that could leave stolen items with 0 ammo in F2. I'd heard about that a little bit, but not experienced it myself. And then Deadeye, equipping the specialization now actually removes any currently active stolen items. I guess there was some weird interaction there. Looking over at World versus World beyond the skill balance, and you might be underwhelmed by that balance, but remember, this isn't actually a balance patch. They're just refining and tweaking things up. The Desert Borderlands had a bug in which merged Soul Beast would lose access to their weapon skills after using certain launch pads, because of course launch pads aren't really in the other maps. And then they talk about the Black Lion section, which I will do a little bit on in my video here. So I already showed you the Super Raptor mount, and I would expect as Super Adventure Books goes forward now in future years, we'll see more of those get rolled out. I do think this is a really good idea for mount skins. They added a new backpack, which I was actually wearing at the beginning of this video. If you rewind the Dreamwalker thing, you can look at my back there. It's one of the more subtle ones, which I think is fine. Another change was the guaranteed wardrobe unlockers actually getting updated, which I was quite happy with myself as someone who really utilizes a lot of those. So all the stuff through December's now in there. But the kind of controversial change this patch was this, the Vermillion Tail Feather Torch. Which is one of these RNG Black Lion chest weapon skins that you can't buy or get anyway except for just the raw RNG until like way later they add it through statuettes, for example. But it has a very, very, very prominent effect. It happens over and over and over again that people think, oh, this is the worst thing they've ever done. Personally, I think the worst thing they ever did in the Gemstore was some of those ridiculous gliders that fill up the entire screen, like the Raven glider, and people can dye them these insane colors. I think gliders and mounts in general have pushed things much worse. But this torch, because it has this unsheath animation, and it's not the first time that a Black Lion weapon has had an unsheath, by the way, because this one's quite prominent with the Pheonix. People are likening it to a legendary. It doesn't have an arm effect. It doesn't have footstep effects. It doesn't have strike effects or anything else that you might expect with a legendary, but it does have this unsheath, and it does look, you know, very pretty. It manages to look really, like, garish and loud and bright, but also a little bit elegant and a little bit refined, so it's just a particularly nice skin, and naturally, because it's an RNG thing on the Gemstore, people are calling into question what ArenaNet's doing again. So, yeah, I thought I'd show that off, and I guess maybe in a weird way it matches with the new backpack, which, by the way, I didn't check. Can you dye? You can dye the new backpack. That's very interesting. So maybe they're actually made to fit one another, or something like that. Oh, I'm not actually wielding it, so we can't really see. And we're in the Super Adventure Box, so we can't see my backpack anyway. But maybe that's what they're doing. I'm not entirely sure. But there you go, guys. That's really the Super Adventure Box patch. I'm not going to linger on it for much longer here for 2020 because it's a pretty minor patch overall, I think. Let me know what you think about the glitch weapon system and the new little adventure in the hub, as I haven't played those. And maybe I'll give you guys a little cap up on those as we go forward. Thanks very much for watching. And now you're in the loop with what's going on with Guild Wars, and I'll see you for the next one very soon. Take care, guys.